Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. In my last video, I talked about some safety practices when you're operating a tractor on slopes. And today I want to talk about something we did a few weeks ago to kind of follow up with that and show you how I use those practices when I'm using my tractor here where I live, because we've got slopes, pretty good slope from where I stand right now to the bottom of the valley, which is probably 100 yards away. It drops about 30 feet. So we've got some pretty good hills here. And this is the front of my house, and we did some landscaping work here a few weeks ago. We had a crabapple tree that had kind of taken over the front of our house, and we wanted to get rid of it. It was kind of pretty, but it had grown to the point that it dominated the front of the house. And this is our picture window at our living rooms back here, and we look out over a big valley. It's really pretty, but you couldn't see it because you had this tree in the way. And so we decided to pull the tree out and put in some smaller plants. And we hired a landscape company, and the guy that owns it is right at the end of my driveway here. I can see his house from where I'm standing. Matt's got a landscape company and does good work, and we decided to use him. He does marvelous design work and execution, and he's a good neighbor, and we just wanted to support him. So we said, come fix everything, because we had a bunch of stuff in front of our house. It had gotten out of control. We hadn't done anything to it. So anyway, long story. We took this tree out by the roots because they're going to plant plants in here. And so I had this huge root ball and a pretty big stump. It was a bigger tree than I thought it was. And so we dug it out of the ground, and I said, well, I'll put that where I want it and get it out of your way so the landscape guys could do their thing. And so I picked it up with my tractor, and this is kind of me picking it up. And we left the stump on it, and in retrospect, should have sawed part of it off, but I immediately knew when I picked it up, this has got some weight to it. Right here, let's talk about lift capacity. There's a couple of places that manufacturers measure lift capacity of a front-end loader. They measure it at the bucket pins, in other words, where the pin hooks the bucket onto the main frame of the loader. And that's a big number, but the lesser number will be 500 millimeters forward of the pins. In other words, a little less than 20 inches forward of the pins. That's functionally where the load is going to be when you're picking up a big weight like this. Now, a lot of brochures will quote the lift capacity to full height at the pin, but the functional capacity of the loader is 500 millimeters forward. So if your salesman told you you could lift up a ton, which my tractor's rated at 2,000 pounds to full height at the pin, but I can't pick up 2,000 pounds because that weight is going to be further forward. And on this root ball, you got a lot of weight way forward. A lot of the weight is sticking out further than the pallet forks on the tractor. So that has a big impact on your lift capacity. And boy, I could feel it when I picked this up. I knew I had a full load for the tractor. So when you've got a weight that's sticking out, you've actually got more weight there functionally than just whatever that object weighs because of the geometry. It's sticking out, so it's trying to pull the back end of the tractor up. So I'm trying to move this thing, and I can feel I've got a load. Now, a couple of things to know when you're moving a weight like this. Number one, make sure you got plenty of air in your front tires. And I like to keep low air in my back tires, like maybe 12 to 15 pounds is plenty. And I like to keep, especially when I'm moving a weight like this, whatever the manufacturer recommends, at least in the front tires, and maybe just a little bit, if they recommend 30 to 32 pounds, have 32 pounds in there. Also, this is a good time to make sure you've greased your front axle. There's a grease zerk under there where it pivots that you need to have grease in, and I did a video about that. I'll post a link to that at the end. But go really, really slow. Now, I'm locked in four-wheel drive at this point, and I'm driving really slow because I can feel this weight. And you'll notice whenever you're picking up near the lift capacity of your tractor, your power steering, especially if you've got one hydraulic pump that controls both your loader and your power steering, you can feel it. You're working to have to steer it. And make sure you rev up the engine so you've got plenty of oil flow through the hydraulics, and then just take it easy. Now, I'm in four-wheel drive because if I get backwards on this driveway in two-wheel drive and pick the back end of the tractor up, I could start going backwards. And always be ready when you're carrying a weight like this to drop the weight to the ground. If you pick up the back end of the tractor and you're not in four-wheel drive and you start feeling yourself roll backwards and you hit the brakes and nothing happens because the brakes are on the back and the back wheels are off the ground, drop the weight. I always keep my hand near that joystick, so if anything bad happens, I can just drop that weight to the ground and then everything will go back to normal. I'm taking this up to a brush pile I've got up in my woods, and I keep a few brush piles around for the wildlife. Small wildlife likes to have a refuge from the bigger wildlife, and I don't know, maybe coyotes live here, but I took it up and dumped it upside down on this brush pile, and we'll just leave that for the wildlife, and it'll gradually decompose, and then the dirt will come off of it and the rocks will come off of it, and eventually it'll be dirt after I'm dead and gone. It'll be a while. But anyway, that's what I did in my front yard. Now I want to show you guys. My wife decided she wanted a maple tree in the front yard, and where she wanted it turned out to be a little rock in the ground. And the landscape guys got it out. Holy cow. Just below the surface in the area where I live are these monstrous rocks. And they got it out of the ground, but it was an ordeal. And this one, I'm not going to try to move with my tractor. That definitely wouldn't be something my tractor could pick up. Matt, the landscape guy's got a Bobcat with tracks on it. It's, I think, the biggest one they make. I don't know what the lift capacity is on it, but it's pretty high. And he managed to move it around to the back of our yard, and we put it in kind of a little landscaping area that we look at out of our kitchen. And that's where it's going to stay. But I'll give you an idea of what's right underneath the soil here in southwest Missouri. It's not very pretty, but got the landscaping done. We really like it, and got to use my tractor a little bit and supported Matt a little bit, and life is good. By taking that big tree out of our front landscaping, this is the view we opened up. We look over a valley from our living room, and now we can kind of see out there. We're at the back end of a 20-acre plot way off the main road, so we don't get a lot of traffic noise. But it's probably what like a lot of you own. It's the farmers kept the good ground. We got hills, but they're pretty, but you got to be careful when you're on the hills. I appreciate you watching my videos. I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you could do that real easy. No salesman will call. You won't get on any mailing list. Just click the mic face icon and check the bell so you're notified when I post future videos. Here's a link to my website and the Tractor Fun Store with unique items for sale for the tractor owner. It helps support my channel. You ought to check it out. And here's a video I talked about greasing that front axle pivot point. Watch that before you put a heavy load in your bucket. Thanks for watching.